Hello, all Shoot Style Sauna viewers. This is Papa Steam himself, Tim, from the sauna, here to give you the first classic pay-per-view review of our series. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the virus situation that's been going on. As you know, and you saw the press release, we will not be having the podcast for a few weeks, which does get rid of the kayfabe feud Stella and I had, and gets rid of WrestleMania. I don't know if the show itself has gotten canceled. I don't think so yet by the time of this recording. I could be completely wrong. Who knows? But until then, I wanted to tide you guys over with some content, and thank you, Stell, for having me do this. And I also love classic pay-per-views, so we're gonna do these for those few weeks. I have separate videos for how WWE and other companies should have booked, just like What Culture used to do. And Wrestle Talk now, I guess, because Adam Blumpier is still there. I don't know. You get what I mean, though. So we're going to tide you guys over for a bit, and I apologize that our doors have to be closed for now. But if there are any classic pay-per-views or storylines that you would love to hear me book or review, go ahead and tweet me at Tim_the3count, and I will gladly think about it. But first, because we did just get rid of Elimination Chamber, and it was before this year's that I watched it, I just completely forgot to review it until now. It's Elimination Chamber 2010, the very first one under the Elimination Chamber name, February 21st, 2010, at the Scott Trade Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Bold choice to put it in St. Louis. No disrespect to St. Louis people. You all are probably cool. However, I don't know if it's my first choice in terms of pay-per-view venues. I would talk about the Elimination Chamber 2020 pay-per-view, but I really don't want to. It was and it was The women's chamber shouldn't have main evented, although it was the right decision to do all of that. The match of the night was obviously Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak, but that's not the point. So let's hit the 2010. As you can see by the thumbnail, it is most famous for the setup for WrestleMania 26 with Taker Michaels 2, a.k.a. my favorite match of all time, and a.k.a. if you don't think that, you're wrong, you're dumb, and you're bad. Let me sip my coffee first. Solid. It was about 17,000 attendance. You had 285,000 pay-per-view buys. That's a fair amount. We have Michael Cole, the King, and Matt Striker on commentary. I miss Matt Striker on commentary. I loved him, especially in Lucha Underground. With Vampiro, Matt Striker has a way of just talking that is absolutely beautiful. And our first match is a chamber match. Isn't that cool? I believe. Am I correct? No, there was a dark match, but no one cares about that dark match. The first match was a chamber match. For the WWE title, it was Sheamus defending against Triple H, John Cena, Randy Orton, Kofi Kingston, and Ted DiBiase. One of these things is not like the other. I'm going to let you guess what that is. Also, just in general, I'm going to probably edit this differently. I'm going to try and find some footage that I can put, but I also don't know how copyright works for this. I don't know the way around it yet. So if there is no footage on the YouTube version, I apologize. But yeah. I think one of the key things on commentary that was said about the chamber itself is that Matt Striker said the chamber can be your mansion if you mortgage your career. That's hilarious. But yeah, so everyone makes their entrances down. Sheamus and Kofi start. It is a very fast start, and right away you notice that the crowd does chant RKO a lot, since you are in Randy Orton's hometown. Hometown boy, you'd think that does well for him. I don't know if it does. Just kidding, it doesn't. Yeah, decent action, difference in styles a bit. It was really interesting to see Sheamus and Kofi kind of go at it. Kofi with his high speed, high agility, and Sheamus with his Irish power. Third is Triple H. Crowd erupts, and there was a great stare down. I'm forgetting off the top of my head. I'm only seeing this from my notes. I want to say this was Triple H and Sheamus because at the time I think they were feuding. Running knee by Hunter. Sheamus tries for his finisher, but it's reversed. What I do like is that there's an over-the-top rope boom drop to Triple H on the outside. That was super tight. For this Randy Orton, a house of fire in his hometown, he goes and takes out everybody. He's going on a rampage, just going through everyone. More action on the outside. Kofi does a sweet crossbody to everyone on the outside. That's super cool. A finisher miss frenzy. Everyone's trying to hit their finishers. They can't. Pardon my burp. Fifth is DiBiase. And seriously, and I get that this was during the whole legacy angle, which was I don't want to talk much about legacy. That was a weird one. So this was right at the time when Cody Rhodes was trying to help out, but he cost Orton. I want to say it was like the week before or something. DiBiase goes to shake Orton's hand. They accept and they double team Hunter for a bit. They do this great thing where they try to put on the outside. They try to put Kofi Kingston's head in between like the chains of the chamber, and just kind of like wail on him. And he does a great job of selling, where he's like just coughing up a storm. And yeah, Cena enters finally, and dude, Super Cena is fully activated. House of Fire, all the moves of death. You have the blue thunder bomb kind of thing. Doing everything. 5-knuckle shuffles. His diving standing leg drop, which is a very underrated move. It is super cool. And an AA to DiBiase on the outside. And then Cody Rhodes shows up. Yes, what will soon be having his own promotion, Cody Rhodes, shows up with a steel pipe. He gives it to DiBiase, who accidentally hits Orton with it as he's up in Cena's AA. Cena hits him with an AA. And then DiBiase is like, well, okay, sure. And eliminates Orton to massive boos. Cody just kind of like backs out of there like, bro, don't look at me. I didn't do that. And then immediate Trouble in Paradise eliminates DiBiase. A bro kick, and I forget what Sheamus called it. It's kind of like the Razor's Edge that Razor Ramon did. I forget what he called it at the time, and editor, and by editor I mean me, you're going to put it in here, and I'm going to feel like an idiot. He eliminates Kofi immediately, so a lot of quick eliminations kind of back and forth. So then Sheamus and Cena kind of go, back and forth a bit. Triple H hits a low blow, and a pedigree on Sheamus to pin and eliminate him, which is bold. And I'll get to that when I give my final rating for this, but I think it was very interesting. The match ends with an STF on Triple H. He taps, Cena wins, and he's your new WWE champion. I'm giving this match 3 out of 5 stars. Here's why. What I didn't like is that they got rid of the champion going into this very early. Or by very early, I mean he wasn't of the final 2. And I think that just kind of speaks a lot about Sheamus's first WWE title reign. It really it's like, hey man, we knew you weren't ready, so let's just, it just diminishes him. It makes him look like a weak ass champion. But like, match was fine. It was a little slow paced for me, and it was decent. It was still decent. There was a lot of decent action, a lot of contrast in style. Seeing Kofi Kingston in there was really nice. Seeing Randy Orton in his hometown is super great. But yeah, it was a decent match. I would have worked things differently, but that's just me. After, as the Chamber's coming up, Vince McMahon comes out, the sweatiest man in all the men's. Actually, no, that's Shane, my bad. Comes out, congratulates Cena, says, yeah, you're going to go to WrestleMania as the WWE champion, but only if you can defeat this guy. And it's David Q. Batista. In his heel nature, just big dick swinging, immediately spears Cena out of his goddamn shoes. Batista bomb. Batista is your WWE champion and will go into Mania as the WWE champion. Bold. I totally forgot that existed, and I totally forgot that was one of the big bits about their feud, is that. So yeah, there's that match. I'm gonna drink coffee before I transition to this next one. Ugh, I tried to burp and I couldn't. All right. Next up, for the Intercontinental title, we have Drew McIntyre defending against Kane. I totally forgot this was also it was not even like a real feud, but it was a couple weeks before the show. Drew McIntyre faced Kane in a non-title match. They had a double countout, and then Kane chokeslammed McIntyre through the building. Love that. And then it was announced that they would meet at Chamber for the title. And the go-home show, Kane beats Ziggler, but he was attacked by McIntyre. And then, yeah, it kind of makes Kane look weak as dicks, which is upsetting. First of all, let me say, Drew McIntyre's old theme, super cool. I dig it. His old theme slaps. That's it. Same with the old Intercontinental title, which, in my opinion, best Intercontinental title was around that time. But yeah, and Kane, doing his whole fire stuff. When the match starts, he has those vicious throat slaps. I don't know what you call those. I'm also dumb. Those things always look fucking painful when he does it. Yeah, they kind of go back and forth a bit. Drew spends time a lot on the left knee of Kane, but doesn't really go anywhere. This match is a lot quicker than I thought it should be, especially with these two and the talent they have. Of course, Drew is not current Drew, about to go to WrestleMania to win the WWE title Drew. Still a decent Drew here. Tosses Drew over the top, and there's a very scary landing. He kind of hits his legs weirdly. A little bit of a House of Fire, pun intended. Does the side slam, does his diving clothesline thing. Drew, towards the end, Drew kind of tries to leave, tries to win by countout, and Kane's like, fuck you, bro. Throws him back in, but eats an eye poke. Future shock. Drew McIntyre retains the Intercontinental title. I'm going to give this 2 stars out of 5. Nothing really inherently bad about it. It was just fast and not as great for the talent that these two had at the time. I think if it went a little longer, I think if they tried a little more cohesion, I think it would have been better, but it was there. That's 2 out of 5. McIntyre would go on to have the Intercontinental title for a bit before losing to I actually forget who, and Kane. He's Kane. He just shows up when he wants to, really. So here's the interesting thing. What's supposed to be next is the finals of the Divas title tournament, because the previous champion, Melina, tore her ACL and was forced to vacate it. So there's a single elimination tournament held to get a new champion. The finals were supposed to happen in Elimination Chamber between Maryse and Gail Kim. They both make their entrances. They're both ready to wrestle or whatever. Out comes Vicky Guerrero. I'm sorry you had to hear that. Basically comes out and says, fuck that, eat a whole dick. She calls herself, the one diva that matters or something like that, and King fucking chokes laughing, and I think that's the funniest thing he did the whole show. Is Vicky calling herself, the diva, and King just dying, being Jerry the King Lawler. It's funny. She says something about Raw divas hitting SmackDown divas. It was a bad time to be a women's wrestler there. So instead, we get a tag match between Gail Kim and Maryse teaming together versus Layla and Michelle McCool. There really was no reason for this match to happen, and I think that's what made it fucking stupid. I keep forgetting, Gail Kim, as you know from the history of all of them, Gail Kim is the top wrestler here in terms of pure wrestling ability. And especially if you look at her work outside of WWE at TNA, where she was the first Knockouts champion, and people actually gave a shit about Gail Kim there. Layla's alright too. Michelle McCool doesn't really do a whole lot in the match. And Maryse is Maryse. That's all I really care to say. Decent moves. This is super short because it was, again, impromptu. Gail Kim tries to tag Maryse. Maryse says, fuck you, dude, and shoves her and leaves. Michelle McCool hits the Styles Clash, or whatever she called it at the time, to win for Lay Cool. Half star. This match shouldn't have happened. I would have really liked to see that Divas title match between Maryse and Gail Kim at the pay-per-view. I think it happened the next night on Raw, because they were like, well, we gotta do it at some point. But it was weird that they would push that off not on a pay-per-view and instead just be like, well, let's have a tag match. It was dumb. It was dumb. It was dumb. I think it was stupid. But that's just me. We had a segment with Josh Matthews, another future commentator for Impact Wrestling, although Impact we don't really talk about as much, but I like Impact still. This announces the debut of NXT. Oof, do we all fucking remember the debut of NXT back when it was the reality show? You had all those rookies. Daniel Bryan was one of them. Wade Barrett was another. Ryback was one of them. Curtis Axel was one of them. I think Bray Wyatt was one of them. Heath Slater was one. Justin Gabriel, and one or two more that I forget because they probably sucked assholes. So yes, in the interviews with The Miz, He does his thing, calls Daniel Bryan a nerd, makes a Rams joke, hilarious, interrupted by MVP. They say some like stupid nonsense between the two. And then there's an impromptu U.S. title match, so your semi-main event is a match that was made 12 seconds ago. The Miz defending his United States title against MVP. What I totally forgot is that MVP and Mark Henry were a tag team, because the Miz is accompanied by Big Show, because this is when they were also the unified tag champs, so Miz had 3 belts on him right now. Super cool. And MVP was tagging with Mark Henry. I totally forgot that was a thing. Before the match, Michael Cole says a dozen Hall of Famers have held the U.S. title. I really don't know if that's true, because I know around the time of 2010 that a lot, the U.S. title was still kind of, it is the newest title. It didn't start until around 2002, 2003-ish time. So I'm not really sure if many Hall of Famers have held the U.S. title, unless you're talking about WCW, in which case I'd believe that. Because if you're looking at Hall of Famers who have had the WCW U.S. title, it's Bret Hart, Goldberg, although he wasn't inducted yet. Yeah, that's it. And then my favorite part, my other favorite Jerry the King Lawler moment on this show is him making fun of just miserable cities in America. It's super funny. I'm going to try and remember some of the quotes so I can put them here, but they were hilarious. Miz has a very unique style of offense in the ring, and he especially had it during Now. He does this cool, like, knee-to-chest gourd buster. It's a very slow action. The crowd is super not into this match because they didn't really know about it. There was an avalanche belly-to-belly by MVP when he does that cool, like, Shelton Benjamin kind of, like, jump up to the top rope, just casually does that. And Miz starts bleeding. When did he start bleeding? I don't know exactly. MVP is a house of fire, gets a lot of offense in, hits that ball in, and 2 count to the foot on the rope. Mark Henry and Big Show go at it on the outside, and Show throws Henry through a barricade. That's always super fun to watch. Off of red distraction, Big Show KO punches MVP, and Miz retains. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. The fact that it was impromptu kind of diminishes it a lot. And I didn't really care too much about it when watching it. I was watching it when I went on my vacation in Chicago. It was boring. There was nothing really to it. It felt like a Raw match. It felt like something you would see on a regular episode of Raw and not a pay-per-view worthy match. All right, your main event of the evening, and by far the match of the night, which is not hard to compete with, is the World Heavyweight Title Elimination Chamber match. You have The Undertaker defending against R-Truth, a bold choice, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, John Morrison, and Rey Mysterio. This is one of the moments where Taker does haul ass to his entrance, and this is one of the most famous moments from the show, because this is when, during his entrance, his pyro scorched him completely, and he sat in the chamber pod with second-degree burns. Big ow. This is CM Punk still had his Killswitch Engage entrance, which is still super tight. This is also during the Straight Edge Society, which is not as much tight, but Welch Culture already did how they would have booked, and I'm going to let them keep that. What I do like, however, is that Punk, kind of like what he did in the Royal Rumble of that year, does his promos and like antagonizing right before the match starts and kind of during the match, which is super cool. So him and Truth start. Truth is very agile, but it ends really quickly, and quickly by a GTS, and Truth is eliminated in probably about 2 minutes, which is kind of sad. So CM Punk has free time for a sermon. Straight Edge means I'm better than you. MJF would have something to say to you, sir. The third is Ronald Q Mysterious, a.k.a. Rey Mysterio. That dude is flying all over the place, and Punk swings him into the steel like he's made of bricks. It's hilarious. I go back and forth a bit, a little Rana by Mysterio, splash, and he eliminates Punk, and he's just sitting in the chamber alone for a decent amount of time. And that's something I never really understood, is that you just quick eliminations, and then you're just standing in the chamber, and you're like, cool. You know, they don't, like, speed up the clock to be like, all right, well, if you're alone, let's just put someone in there. They're just like, we're just going to let this 5-minute clock run out. It's dumb. Is it dumb? It's dumb. Fourth, Chris Jericho grounds Mysterio immediately. He tries to go for a lion salt, but then reverses into a 619. he does that cool Spider-Man thing where they throw him into the chamber and he kind of like holds onto it, but Jericho grabs his feet and slams him on, and Matt Striker says, "That's Venom." Cool comic book joke, my guy. There was almost a huge botched springboard moonsault, but Jericho managed to save it because Jericho, good worker guy. There's a move where Mysterio puts on a Dragon Sleeper, and Matt Striker, or no, he puts on a guillotine, and Matt Striker says he has the famous Dragon Sleeper and trying to bring this lucha knowledge, which, cool, go Striker. However, clearly not the right move. And it transitions into the walls, but saved by the next entrant, John Morrison. Throws John Morrison into an empty pod. He does this cool, unique dive over the turnbuckle, just kind of like tosses himself over as he's running, as they're on the other side. Jericho catches the 619 attempt in this super fast, like tilt-a-whirl torture rack move. Super cool. And then a disaster kick, Cody Rhodes reference, from John Morrison to Jericho. A Starship Pain from Morrison actually eliminates Mysterio later on, and for some reason, as Ray is leaving, Morrison just keeps his eyes on him, and that's never really made a thing. But then it's caught in the walls, which is super cool. And then last, here comes big mean Mark Callis, big Dead Boy, and he is amped. The dude moves faster than you've ever seen him move, like, prior. Goes after Jericho, does his cool Snake Eyes big boot combo. He cleans house. He absolutely goes nuts. The funniest thing, Jericho tries to lock himself in the pod after making fun of Taker and just like not getting hit. But Taker bips the absolute tar out of him. Morrison tries to go for a Starship Pain later, but Taker sits up. Jericho's like, screw that, locks himself in the pod again. It's memes, all right? It's good memes. We love memes. Taker action continues. Chokeslam from Taker to John Morrison actually eliminates John Morrison, and we're on the final two. It is Undertaker and Chris Jericho. One of them will leave with the World Heavyweight title. The straps are down. The stare down is tense. It is getting real. The crowd is real silent, though. It's like they're watching just like a bulldozer at work. They have this really great sequence where he goes for a chokeslam, he turns it into the walls of Jericho, then turns it into Hell's Gate, and turns it back into the walls, then back into a Hell's Gate, and then a sit-up. It is such a great sequence, and it's probably my favorite sequence of the whole night. Jericho hits a super fast codebreaker, but a 2 count, and then this image has, and probably the most well-known portion of this event, out from under the chamber, when his back is to him, Shawn Michaels appears from under the chamber floor, hits a sweet chin music to Taker. Jericho looks fucking astonished, but he pins and wins, and he is the World Heavyweight Champion. Afterwards, Jericho's like, I don't understand, but the whole time, Michaels stares down at a prone Taker and never takes his eyes off him as they fade to black. I'm going to give the match 4.5 stars. It easily the match of the night by fucking far. And it's actually one of the best chamber matches, in my opinion, of all time. There's a lot of action. You had a lot of contrasted styles. Everyone that was there kind of made sense to be there, besides maybe R-Truth at the time. But even then, he had a reason to kind of be there. It felt tense. It had great moments. You had the Shawn Michaels thing, which kind of stirred up there. WrestleMania 26 feud, the one more match, streak versus career. And I thought it was great. I thought it was a fantastic chamber match and a great way to end the show. My final grade for Elimination Chamber 2010 is a C+. I thought the show was fine. Both chamber matches were really good, and I think those were the heavy pros of the night. I'd even count the Intercontinental title match as a decent pro, but I think what really took away was kind of like the impromptu nature of the other two matches on the card, with what was supposed to be Divas title was now a tag match, and you have a U.S. title match come out of nowhere. It just, part of it just felt kind of rushed and not well thought out. I think if they thought it out a little more, I think the pay-per-view had the means to be fantastic. Not to say it wasn't bad, it just, it was So that is it for my first classic pay-per-view. I am sorry I can't fucking talk properly. I am a struggle boy. But what do you want to see reviewed next? Make sure to tweet me at Tim_the3count. Or if you're watching this live on Twitch, comment in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment on the video. Let me know what you want me to review, or if there's any storylines that you want me to book. One of the ones I do kind of plan on working on in terms of current storylines is how AEW should book the Exalted one. That one I'm kind of looking into. But yeah, any storylines from past, previous, whatever that you think you would like to hear me book, make sure to tweet me at 10 minutes with a 3 count. Next time on Classic pay-per-view, since I don't know when the next current pay-per-view review is, and I don't want to do Chamber 2020 because it was an oof. Next time on Classic pay-per-view review, since we are hitting WrestleMania season, I'm going to be reviewing the only WrestleMania that ever came to my hometown where I grew up. We are doing WrestleMania 11. It is a bad one, but hear me out. It'll be funny. So, thank you guys for listening. Son is going to close again. I don't know. I had a joke planned and I couldn't fucking think of it. But, yeah. Catch you dudes later.